Part 65. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 643. Okay, before I agree, I also want to ask, how does my talent count in your eyes? After hearing so much, Jia Yan felt a little unconfident about his talent as an evolved beast. After all, although he was a little satisfied with the body of the evolved beast at first, the more powerful he became and the opponents he faced were also outstanding, I felt uncertain about my talent. The evolved beasts are unknown in this area. Jia Yan doesn't know whether this is because the evolved beasts do not exist in this area at all, or because even though there are evolved beasts here, they are lost in this area with many talented races, so not famous. When the light and shadow heard Jia Yan's question, he was startled, and then a ray suddenly shot out from his blurry light and shadow's eyes. His strength is no longer a big threat to Jia Yan at this moment, but he doesn't know how many methods he has. Jia Yan is also wary of his ray, but after not feeling the murderous intention of the other party, he relaxes. This ray shoots into the center of the skull. Hey! This, after probing for a moment, the expression of the light and shadow changed in surprise. You are actually less than 50 years old. And your strength is really achieved by yourself without anyone's guidance all the way. Such a blocked energy operation mode, can actually rely on such energy operation, you can to compete with a strong man of the same level? He can even fight almost beyond the level. What a genius, a wild genius. It is as powerful as the master's talent, no, maybe even more powerful than the master's talent. While using rays to detect, the light and shadow started to make a fuss and scream. Regarding the appearance of Jia Yan, he originally just had the idea of just recruiting a similar person to make up the number. After all, although he is an energy-generating machine, he also has an energy life. It's not bad at all. He originally thought that even if he couldn't meet the master's requirements, he might be able to cultivate to the star level. In that case, the other party would pass on the master's clothes and platinum. In the future, there would always be a successor who would use his master's system to advance to the star level. The galaxy level can be regarded as appeasing his master's spirit in heaven. But he didn't expect that when he really explored the young man's physique and talent, he suddenly got a shocking result. This young man turned out to be a true genius that was rare in his memory. Even compared to his master, he was absolutely perfect. Maybe it was possible to completely inherit his master's legacy. Great, young man, you must inherit my master's legacy. Haha, your talent is beyond my imagination. A completely wild existence, you can reach this point by yourself, even if you are my master. It is probably impossible to do it, and your body is somewhat special. You can actually use energy to achieve a one-time explosive growth in strength. It is terrible, simply terrible. However, in the future growth of your strength, you should try to use this method as little as possible. Your body has long been overloaded. But it's okay, I will teach you how to eliminate these hidden dangers. Listening to the series of laughter of the light and shadow, Jia Yan didn't know what method the other party used to actually understand almost everything about himself at once. However, he was not too surprised, but at this moment, he once again gained confidence in his talent. It's not that my talent is bad, it's that my previous system was too confusing. That's right. I almost grew up by groping by myself. Even if I learned something in this galaxy, I would do it based on my instincts. It's just a matter of modifying it to suit myself. It's definitely not as mature as the system of a truly powerful person. Okay, young man, make your decision quickly. If you are willing to take the risk of inheriting the master's clothes, then I can formally teach you. I feel uncomfortable looking at your chaotic body. I really want to see you earlier. After being recuperated, how far will your strength go? Killing enemies by leapfrogging might be as simple as drinking water and eating. I really hope that you can be like your original master, killing enemies by leapfrogging and running rampant in the universe. The more Guangying knew about Jia Yan's talent, the more he looked forward to it. He suddenly no longer regarded Jia Yan as an ordinary successor, but had real expectations. Agree or not? If you agree, you will offend a terrifying galaxy-level powerhouse who has forced Jia Yan to an unknown extent. There are also various hidden dangers in cultivation. Is it better not to agree? Jia Yan thought for a while, and if he didn't agree, his cultivation system was just like what the other party said. He had to figure it out by himself. It would be almost impossible for him to find his own path through the public secrets of this starry sky, and he wanted to worship him. It is almost impossible for other sects to encounter a master who is almost as strong as the galaxy level. What's more, even if Jia Yan learned from the other party, why couldn't he improve it himself? When he was pondering on his own in the past, he dared to practice with his own body. Now that he has systematic guidance, why doesn't he dare to use the footsteps of his predecessors for further research? As for the threat of the terrifying galaxy strongman, Jia Yan's terrifying existence is unlikely to come to his door in a while. Besides, if he doesn't make enemies with this galaxy strongman, his danger in this starry sky will be decrease. He still remembers that before Rongbo died, he sent a message to a venerable level person in the northern star region. After thinking so much, Jia Yan finally confirmed his thoughts. Looking at the light and shadow in front of him, who was looking forward to Jia Yan's reply, Jia Yan suddenly lowered his head. "Senior, I am willing to accept your master's clothes and please teach me," he said loudly. "Ha ha ha. Okay, master's wish, I'm about to fulfill it. Okay, I still have 2 years to live. Seeing as you don't like to stay in this place where birds don't lay eggs, I'll go with you. Anyway, things here are over, and in the remaining 2 years of my life, I will definitely teach you all my knowledge and master's skills." The light and shadow body laughed happily, and then his body flew up. The huge corpses in the entire valley shook violently, and the monster's torso, which was 50 kilometers long, actually appeared to be cracking. "I don't have any good meeting gifts for you. The master once said that if you accept a good apprentice, then he will give you his carefully preserved energy essence and blood. I have seen your body, and I think this essence and blood will be useful to you. Your help will not be small." Guangying said lightly, and Jia Yan saw the machine in the heart tremblingly moving again. The entire monster corpse was shaking continuously, and then the head collapsed first, followed by the front legs and hind legs. The world was filled with extremely violent sounds. The chaos fruits on one side seemed to be stunned for a long time, looking at the valley they regarded as a sacred mountain. At this moment, it was collapsing like crazy. Pieces of gravel were splashing in the sky. From time to time, some chaos fruits were accidentally splashed. Arrived, uttering a cry of pain. In addition to the real screams of pain, a greater part of their pain was the incomparable heartache for the collapse of the sacred mountain. You must know that these chaos fruits are almost associated with the sacred mountain where the monster's corpse is. At this moment, the sacred mountain collapsed. For them, it is like losing the future of their race. Quack, 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 in the chaos fruit settlement area over there, countless chaos fruits also made miserable cries. The chaos fruits from far away noticed the sudden vibration here. At this moment, they all understood what happened. The entire tribe suddenly screamed in misery. You must know that these chaos fruits are actually a weak species underground. Because they were too weak, they were almost in a desperate situation of death. But when they accidentally discovered this huge valley, their race underwent earth-shaking changes, even though they were still the same. Weak, but able to rely on the ability of digging to gain a chance of survival. Now that God has collapsed, the chaos fruit race may return to its previous weak state. The master has a lot of essence and blood, and it will take almost half an hour to collect it. Just as the chaos fruits let out miserable screams one by one, the light and shadow did not move at all. To him, these local monsters were all. He was a follower of that galaxy-level powerhouse, and the corpse of his master, who had been collected by the other party for hundreds of years, was already a great honor. If he hadn't used up all his strength now, he might have wiped out their entire tribe at this moment. Jia Yan looked at the extremely painful chaos fruit race behind him, and then at the liquid that was constantly overflowing from the heart of the monster's corpse. Through his own comparison, he knew that this liquid was actually the essence of the stone he had collected. The energy contained in the transformed version is actually 3 to 5 times that of the light stone he has mastered. Those chaos fruits wanted to get close to the place where the waves were emitting, but they didn't know why. This entire place of monster corpses actually experienced terrible pressure again. Although Jia Yan miraculously did not feel it, those chaos fruits, even the starry sky level, the chaos fruit has become inaccessible even when looking for the bookstore. Time passed slowly. Quack, when Jia Yan saw the entire monster's body, only the heart was left. A familiar scream of chaos fruit reached Jia Yan's ears. Jia Yan was startled, then looked back. I saw that the chaos fruit that led him to this underground space was currently standing in an area a few kilometers away, guarded by several chaos fruits, looking at Jia Yan with an imploring look and begging and shouting. Senior, forget it. Just keep the remaining parts here. Anyway, I can't use so much of Senior's energy and blood. Let's leave some here to commemorate the past when the Senior died fighting here. The chaos fruit race will definitely not destroy it, Jia Yan suddenly said. Okay, the light and shadow did not refute Jia Yan's words. Anyway, most of the blood essence of the huge corpse has been collected. You must know that this is a blood lake of 1 kilometer square. Jia Yan can swim in it. No matter how talented he is, he can only absorb a small part. No matter how much he has, it will have no effect or meaning for Jia Yan. So it doesn't matter if I don't collect any more at this point. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 644. Male sign. The blood essence has been collected. Let's leave this planet. I've really had enough of staying here. After the light and shadow said all this, the body floating in the air flicked. Boom 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 boom. Between heaven and earth, a terrifying wave exploded. A shadow so terrifying that it almost suppressed the entire sight slowly rose from the soil. And under Jia Yan's gaze, a terrifying black figure turned out to be like a peerless beast rising from the ground, coming to the world fiercely. This is a precision instrument that can definitely impress Jia Yan. It has a unique shape, a smooth appearance, and a sharp head and tail. Although it does not have much aesthetics, it has a dark appearance, and a flat train. Similar. However, its size is larger than that of a train, with a width of 5 kilometers and a length of 10 kilometers. After rising from the ground, it was like a huge mountain rising, almost covering the sky and the sun, shocking people's hearts. Is this a battleship? It doesn't look like it. Jia Yan looked at this behemoth and murmured to himself in shock. Haha, do you think this is a battleship? No, this is the master's backpack, the light and shadow replied to Jia Yan with a smile. Backpack. Jia Yan hesitated for a moment, almost having a headache. Is this a backpack? It was bigger than any battleship he had ever seen. Even just looking at its appearance and metal structure, one could tell that its defense was much stronger than ordinary battleships. Is this just a backpack? Jia Yan was speechless. It was right to think about it. The corpse of the senior monster was 50 kilometers long. This 10-kilometer long metal matter might really be the opponent's backpack. But if you tell me, it will really scare people to death, okay. Yes, this is the master's backpack, but don't underestimate him. Not only does he have the ability of a general battleship, he can even carry guests. His offensive and defensive capabilities are far beyond the imagination of ordinary creatures. After all, this is my master's, an instrument used for fighting together. Under certain circumstances, the owner also uses it as a weapon. The light and shadow looked at the huge metal monster rising, and in the roar, it revealed a look of pride and nostalgia. Being a weapon wielder, being used as a weapon by a star-level being, how powerful it must be. Jia Yan heard this and quickly looked at the rising metal monster with some sparkle. Don't think so much. This backpack was also damaged in the last period of the owner's life. I can barely move it now. It's not that simple to repair it. Until you have the ability to repair it, just think of it as a battleship. Of course, it will be the strongest battleship in this backward star field. Hearing this light and shadow's words, Jia Yan couldn't help but feel a little regretful, but this was also in line with common sense. After thinking about it, he was no longer depressed. You must know that this so-called damaged giant backpack alone directly surpassed all his battleships. I don't know how many more. Now there is no way to transport the essence and blood away. Jia Yan was just thinking about how to take away the blood essence collected by the light and shadow. You must know that he does not have the ability to take such a huge amount of blood essence to escape the pursuit of those three-headed monsters of the venerable level. But now that I saw the giant backpack rising, I immediately understood that Guangying had already thought of a way to leave for him. Okay, let's go, I've had enough here. The light and shadow smiled softly, flicked his tail, and then a hatch was directly exposed on the surface of the giant metal backpack under the sound of bombardment. The blood essence was originally floating under the support of an energy similar to the power of brain waves, but when the light and shadow opened the hatch, the blood essence flew directly into the hatch automatically. Young man, stop looking and come in. When Jia Yan looked at everything in front of him, he was stunned for a moment, and the sound of light and shadow reached his ears. Okay, Jia Yan responded quickly, and then the giant mosquito also moved and rushed into the hatch. The interior of this so-called backpack is really empty. It is just a huge empty space, but there are some differentiated areas similar to pockets. For Jia Yan, it is simply uncomfortable to be empty. A giant mosquito like him can almost fly around here to exercise. It is like an aircraft with an empty interior space that I have never experienced before. And this terrifying giant metal monster is just a backpack of that stellar powerhouse. If you think about it, you will know how terrifying that senior was at his peak. Gone. Just as Jia Yan looked around at the space in the backpack, the virtual influence of light and shadow appeared again, but Jia Yan found that the other party's body seemed to have solidified a little, presumably because he had gained some support from the metal back. Jia Yan naturally didn't have much resistance to leaving here. Seeing that he had nothing else to do, the light and shadow monster flicked its tail, and then the whole space shook violently. Click. The hatch Jia Yan entered was closed, and the entire space became pitch black. However, this dark situation did not last long, and the space immediately became brighter. After all, in addition to being the backpack of the huge monster, this place must also have been considered at the beginning of the design, and this place must accommodate the survival of life. Air appeared in space, and gravity suitable for Jia Yan also appeared. A light screen appeared in front of Jia Yan, allowing him to see the outside world. Boom boom boom. The earth shook, and all the chaos fruits near the valley saw the huge suspended black metal thing, which brought up a series of mud flying in the sky, and some chaos fruits also saw the huge black metal thing outside the ship. The monster that was causing damage to their holy place actually flew in. They tried to stop him, but they didn't have the strength to resist. At this moment, they could only watch the flying monster disappear before their eyes. Quack! Each chaos fruit was extremely angry and wanted to pounce, but none of them could attack under the pressure from everywhere. They could only watch in despair as the huge golden monster slowly rose into the air. As it rose into the sky, the entire underground world seemed to be shaking. Countless gravel splashed between the sky and the earth. After that, the monster actually got in like that. Top of the land. Boom 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 boom. This terrifying monster, seemingly without any effort, penetrated into the hard earth of the star and continued to rise upwards. The entire space vibrated, and for the Chaos Fruit, this was almost a terrifying scene of earth-shattering. The terrifying metal monster rose quickly, and the space he passed was immediately filled with sand and stones, filling the hole it rushed into. Swish, swish, swish. This drilling even caused the collapse of a large area of underground space, but fortunately it did not cause any large-scale collapse. The safety of those chaos fruits was not considered to be in great danger. Quack. When everything passed and the vibrations in the sky faded away, there was only one starry sky-level existence in the chaos fruit. It roared sadly, seeming to be wailing for the future fate of the chaos fruit. But soon, it discovered something unusual. It turned out that where Nahara Valley was, a small hilltop still stood among a pile of collapsed ruins. Quack, the starry sky-level chaos fruit rushed over in surprise. Hearing his cry, all the chaos fruits looked at the towering area in surprise. Quack, 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 all the chaos fruits didn't care whether this was Jia Yan's forgiveness for them, they just shouted with great joy at this moment. Only the chaos fruit, who led Jin down to this underground space, seemed thoughtful as he looked at the only remaining ruins in the heart of the valley. Boom 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 boom. Let's not talk about the Chaos Fruit clan below, nor whether they can still survive well after losing the help of most of the light stones in the valley. We only talk about the huge backpack spaceship above. The Master's backpack armor also has a great background. In order to build it, the Master spent a lot of energy and it took about 100 years to complete. Its official name is Edisha. At that time, the Master made it according to the function of the armor. I didn't expect that the Master's strength had improved too fast. As a result, the armor only had the function of being a backpack. I see what you think. The direction of progress is not only the direction in which the body becomes larger, but maybe it can be completely used as an armor at the stellar level in the future. Edisha? I hope I can wear it one day. Jia Yan looked at the space around him and nodded uncertainly. You must know that he can live happily here looking at this huge space. If he wants to wear it as armor in the future, even Jia Yan, who is confident in himself, does not dare to think so much. Boom boom boom. Jia Yan has been looking at the outside scene through the screen, only to hear the continuous collision of space in the outside world. The gravel in the ground is constantly splitting, and then becomes the object of Edis's crushing, and is broken down into small pieces. The sand and soil were then pushed away. Editha didn't show any fear at all about the superstar land, which Jia Yan even had a headache for, and moved forward like a torrent. This huge metal monster seemed to be moving forward slowly, but in fact it surged forward extremely quickly. And just when the time to move forward reached about 10 minutes. Boom! Jia Yan only felt a slight shock. He quickly looked at the screen and saw that the outside scene was completely foggy like the surface of the earth. How could it be so fast, in just 10 minutes, that it broke through the entire thousands of kilometers of hard underground space? Jia Yan looked at the scene on the screen in astonishment. He was simply astonished by the powerful power of Editha. After all, he had heard at first that this was just the backpack of the powerful senior, so he didn't believe in its ability. But now it seems that the items of the top starry sky level experts are indeed the items of the top experts, and they are actually so powerful. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 645. Jia Yan witnessed the emergence of the Edissa, and was naturally not too surprised. However, from the outside, the appearance of this behemoth was a bit unexpected. Just listen to the loud explosion of the earth, the whole space is filled with gravel splashing, and then this monster with a length of 10 kilometers rises from the ground to the sky. The entire ground shook extremely horribly, and almost all the three-headed monsters noticed the strange changes here. Countless weak ones fled into the distance like crazy. Just when Jia Yan was stunned by the power of the Edissa, he was suddenly startled as he looked at the camera. It turned out that in the screen image he saw, two figures with three heads were charging towards the Aditha with some anger. These are the two three-headed monsters of the venerable level that chased Jia Yan to nowhere. Now when these two monsters saw Aditha's huge body appearing, they actually didn't care. Want to attack? That's enough for you. How dare you come with such a terrifying steel monster? Jia Yan felt a little dumbfounded. He knew that the three-headed monster had a low IQ. He originally thought that the venerable level would be at least a little better, but now it looks like come on, it's just an idiot level. Of course, what Jia Yan didn't know was that these two monsters had been invincible in the fog area for too long. For them, this steel monster did not reveal any sense of biological power, and they thought they could deal with it. These two puppies are really cute. My master also raised a few similar guys before, but they seem to want to attack us. Young man, what do you think we should do? The light and shadow monster was suspended in front of Jia Yan, asked Jia Yandeo. What should I do? Can you help me kill them? I originally wanted to seek revenge on them, but now it's just right. I may not come back here in the future. Jia Yan looked at the light and shadow monster and said lightly. In fact, his bigger idea was to see the capabilities of the Edissa. Okay, just kill them. Although they remind me a little of those master puppies, their strength is still not close. Guang Ying nodded. The two three-headed monsters erupted with extremely terrifying auras. They were facing a steel monster that was many times larger than their 300-meter body. For these two simple-minded Lord-level monsters, at this moment, they were simply outmatched by the steel monster. Their fear, but stemming from their overconfidence in themselves, made them charge directly forward, wanting to fight the Edissa, a huge monster that seemed to hold up the heavens and the earth. But just before they were about to approach the Edissa, poof! Two terrifying rays of light shot out fiercely from the Aditha. These were two rays of light whose principle Jia Yan didn't know. They seemed to be the practical brainwave power of a strong man, but that was not necessarily the case. Even inside the Edisha, he felt the power of this terrifying light. The light was like two killer weapons. The two three-headed monsters that once chased Jia Yan and almost drove him into despair. At this moment, they had no ability to dodge at all. After a moment, they both exploded with blood. Fog. Hua 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 hua. Countless pieces of star flesh fell from the sky and the earth, each piece representing the fact that the terrifying existence that had been rampant for countless years in this foggy area had fallen. Is it solved so easily? These are two starry sky lord level monsters. Jia Yan looked at the three-headed monster's flesh and blood that exploded all over the sky on the screen, and his expression became extremely shocked. He had thought about the strength of the Aditha, but never imagined that its strength was so terrifying. The two extremely terrifying three-headed monsters at the venerable level that were chasing him were killed so easily. You must know that Jia Yan can't deal with even one of them, let alone one of them. Haha, there is no difficulty in this, but I can tell you that the last two guns of the Edissa are somewhat damaged after this shooting, and they will definitely not be able to fire again in a short time. Let's go quickly. Although even if the strongest being on this planet attacks, he can't break through the Edissa's defense alone, but without attack means it is always a bit troublesome. The light and shadow monster expressed disdain for Jia Yan's surprise, but also told some bad news. I'll go, it's broken in these two times. Jia Yan felt a little distressed, and it was right to think about it. Even if this backpack was powerful, the senior monster must have used it to fight with it before his death. It was damaged a lot at that time, and it had been left for so many years. It was definitely bad. In this attack, the last two guns may have been damaged in some way, and it may be very troublesome to repair. If I had known better, I wouldn't have shot them. Just leave. Now I don't have a trump card. Jia Yan shook his head depressedly. However, he would not have any regrets about the decision he made. At this moment, he put aside his regrets and said directly to the light and shadow monster, "Senior, let's go. I have had enough of this planet." Good. The light and shadow monster was even more looking forward to leaving, and he swept his tail. Boom boom boom. The huge machine that had just lightly activated its two guns and killed the two three-headed venerable level monsters in the mist began to move slowly at this moment. From afar, they saw huge changes here, and the other three-headed monsters of the venerable level that came over were almost stunned when they saw this scene. For these monsters, all they saw was this extremely huge metal monster. Easily killing two of their same level beings, no one would have guessed that this metal monster was actually a steel turtle shell with no defense but no means of attack. When the Aditha made a slight turn, the three monsters immediately retreated back in fear. But they didn't wait for the steel monster to attack. But when they came back to their senses, the huge monster in front of them actually slowly rose into the sky above the fog, gradually protruding out of the fog area. The confusion attack in the mist area posed almost no threat to the steel monster, or had no effect at all. For Jia Yan, even the direction was lost, and he broke through easily. The entire 10 kilometers of giant steel monster passed in just 2 minutes. Then he accelerated gently and reached an altitude of about 50 kilometers. Behind is the tail of a series of mist brought by this huge thing. The extremely huge monster has almost returned to the dark universe. Haha, the universe is still the same as it was 3,000 years ago. It's still so beautiful and fascinating. It's been a long time. The light and shadow monster floated in front of Jia Yan, looking endlessly, longing for the universe area on the screen. When Jia Yan looked at the appearance of the monster, he had a vague feeling that after the light and shadow monster first entered the Edisha, it took on a more agile appearance, but he didn't think too much about it. After all, the other party added energy, a little more flexibility is really normal. For Jia Yan, this light and shadow monster itself is full of magical things. The science and technology he now understands, even the technology of this starry sky, is difficult to produce technology of this level. Even Edisha, with such a huge body, must be difficult to produce the technology of this starry sky. Not to mention the more high-tech construction that Edisha has. The huge and terrifying metal monster flying 10 kilometers long is an extremely huge event for the entire giant star with a diameter of millions of miles. For ordinary monsters, it is probably impossible to see it because of the distance, but some monsters with terrifying strength can be detected one by one. As soon as these monsters saw this scene, they roared with overwhelming momentum. It seemed that it would be a big event for the Edisha to escape from here. Some powerful monsters even flew up suddenly towards the sky. Coming in pursuit. Let's go, I've had enough of this bastard's planet. If you don't leave, those little guys will come to see you off. The light and shadow monster burst out laughing when it saw how many monsters roared on the entire planet. Then his tail swiped again. Jia Yan's vision was pretty good. He saw that among the monsters that were chasing him, some were actually monsters that were 1 kilometer long. Although their strength was still at the level of the Star Lord, the size of their bodies alone it is destined that their strength cannot be weak. The problem is that these monsters are not just one, there are actually hundreds of them, if they are chased by them. Aditha, who has no attack ability, might actually be in some trouble. Boom 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 boom. The sounds between heaven and earth gradually became smaller. This was not because Edisha's flight had slowed down, but because it looked unhappy, but actually flew very fast into outer space where there was almost no sound. And when he came to outer space, his speed became even faster. A bright flame appeared behind it, showing that it was an advanced backpack-type armor that also needed to be accelerated by flame jets. And this kind of acceleration is not a simple thing. I saw the entire huge metal body of the Aditha suddenly swooping forward in one breath, flying forward by a large distance. Even Jia Yan, who was inside, felt a terrifying acceleration force, which directly caused him to fall backwards due to the force of inertia. What kind of comfort is this? If you have the ability, you must improve it in the future. Jia Yan was a little depressed. However, he was still able to stand firm. At this moment, he looked at the light screen, and the entire armored spacecraft actually accelerated to a speed that he felt was very fast, and roared away towards the outside world. When the entire hull reaches about 500 kilometers from the star, this acceleration slowly stops increasing. Okay, it's impossible for those guys on this planet to pursue us here. We can rest assured. Guang Ying turned around lightly, looked at Jia Yan, and then asked a little strangely. Do those primitive battleships following us belong to you? Let me tell you, as the successor of the Great Master, you cannot have the hobby of collecting junk, otherwise I will be very dissatisfied. To be continued. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 646. Collecting rags. Jia Yan looked at the light screen behind the surveillance and saw battleships from the giant Mosquito fleet quickly approaching here. Jia Yan can understand what the senior Guangying means, that is, he doesn't like these battleships at all. But this is a fleet that Jia Yan finally obtained, and he doesn't think these warships are junk. This is all in tatters. If Senior Light and Shadow saw his Earth fleet on Earth, wouldn't he just scold him for picking up the rags among the rags? Haha, Senior has a great vision. Naturally, my family background is not in your eyes. But I think it's better to send a message to my subordinates. I gave them the message hastily when I broke out. Maybe they still don't believe that I am here. It's in this backpack and armor. Jia Yan smiled bitterly and changed the topic. He had a hunch that with the vision of the Senior Light and Shadow, there would be many similar disagreements in the future. Such a pile of junk is just like toys. What else do you want to do with it? Really, the Senior Light and Shadow muttered a little, but did not stop Jia Yan's movements. It turns out that Jia Yan used the communicator on the armor to speak to Kama of the giant Mosquito fleet when he broke out of the superstar in the armor backpack. Otherwise, if he suddenly saw such a huge spaceship flying up, the entire giant Mosquito fleet would not know what a panic it would cause. Kama, please let the fleet come closer. This giant ship is very safe, Jia Yan said into the communicator. Okay, sir. A beautiful female voice came from the communicator. However, it seemed that her slightly surprised feelings could not be hidden in this voice. And in the giant Mosquito fleet at this moment, not only Kama, the entire fleet became extremely shocked at this moment, because they never thought that there was such a terrifying battleship in the world, and its appearance it was also so terrifying and seemed completely different from ordinary battleships. Of course, what these members of the giant Mosquito fleet did not expect was that the person operating this huge battleship would actually be their leader and the strongest person in the entire fleet, who had previously thought that an accident had occurred, Master Jia Yan. The entire fleet was in uproar at this moment. Do you think this is the battleship's cover-up? Maybe a monster killed Master Jia Yan inside, and then used the battleship to come out, attracting us at this moment, so that we can catch them all. Are you stupid? Such a terrifying battleship. If you want to completely destroy us, wouldn't it be possible to destroy our entire fleet with just one attack? You must know that there is no such battleship in the universe that can be easily built. Civilization, the other party's warships are so huge, it means that the other party's technological strength exceeds the technological strength contained in our fleet by an unknown amount. You all think Master Jia Yan is really dead? You are all fools. He is a strong man of Master Jia Yan's level, and he is so young. His blessings far exceed your imagination. According to me, he said, maybe this is really a treasure brought out by Master Jiayan, haha, if this is really the case, then our fleet will be more powerful than ever. That's right, this must be the terrifying giant ship brought out by Lord Jiayan. Haha, if this is really the case, then based on this giant ship alone, it is not wrong for me to join the giant Mosquito fleet. Even in the Northern Star territory, there are no such terrifying giant ships. The giant Mosquito fleet is making some noise at this moment. For the giant Mosquito fleet at this moment, Jiayan's existence is absolutely majestic. The chaos caused by the entire fleet because of Jiayan's suspension of communication almost seemed like nothing. It happened once before, those guys who were ready to make moves all of a sudden lost their voices and became extremely honest. Grown-ups. When the fleet approached, they saw an extremely small figure flying out of the huge Edisha. Seeing this figure, who was in the Kudatan Camp class spacecraft, shouted in surprise. Sounded. This figure was none other than Jiayan. When he saw this figure, the doubts in the entire fleet finally completely disappeared, and who had always been a little worried, finally relaxed completely. You must know how much pressure this woman has endured in the past few days. After all, the entire giant Mosquito fleet is just a newly established force, and its cohesion is completely insufficient. The strongest leader Jiayan disappeared, and the fleet did not fall apart. It can be considered that Karma's method is pretty good. Not long after, Jiayan's huge body approached all the ships of the docked giant Mosquito fleet. The giant Mosquito fleet here naturally did not dare to neglect and opened the hatch of the Kudatan spacecraft to welcome his arrival. How is the fleet's collection work going? When Jiayan entered the Camp class spacecraft, before everyone in the fleet asked extremely curious questions about the Edisha, he first asked who greeted him. Ask questions. Sir, although some discordant things happened in the fleet still collected a lot of materials with everyone's concerted efforts, and also obtained a lot of some special materials you designated, heard Jiayan first say. After asking these questions, he quickly suppressed his curiosity and replied to Jiayan. Very good. Jiayan's huge figure moved in the Camp class spacecraft. As he moved, he felt more and more that the spaceship in the corner was too small. I know you are curious about the spaceship over there. I can only tell you that in the future that spaceship will belong to our giant Mosquito fleet. But now for some reasons, you can't enter. When you have the opportunity in the future, there will be becoming a killer for us, but not yet. His offensive power has been completely lost. That's right. Shook her head with some disappointment. She had thought a lot before. If this huge battleship could have a huge combat power that matched its body, it would be good news for her, especially for that thing she wants to ask Jiayan for in the future. It might be a real trump card, but when Jiayan said this, she suddenly became a little disappointed. Okay, since you have gained a lot from that mysterious star, let's leave. The secrets here are not something that our fleet can participate in. These gains are enough. Jiayan said this to and other fleet members. The implication behind his words is that the superstar has a secret? All the members were a little stunned when they heard this sentence. No one had guessed this before, but for them, the existence of the superstar itself is an unspeakable mystery. Because the wife is too big and magnificent, these members gradually become disillusioned. Dare to think that this place may contain secrets, because this is beyond their imagination. If there is a secret, then the existence of this entire giant star is also caused by man-made things. A superstar that spans millions of kilometers. Tong Tong didn't believe this at first, but he didn't expect Jiayan to actually say that there was really a secret here. Everyone had to believe it, because Jiayan actually built a 10-kilometer battleship from superstar. If there were no secrets here, no one would believe it. Then we can build a 10-kilometer level terrifying battleship, and Master Jiayan still says that the secrets here are even more terrifying. The level of secrets here. Thinking of this, all the battleship members couldn't help but feel shocked. If this is revealed, it will definitely be a shocking secret. However, Jia Yan has no intention of going into details. If he tells it, this may be a place created by a being that exceeds the stellar level. It may even be the entire giant star, or even the entire chaotic star field. It's all a trick played by the other party, and the fleet members here may regard him as a lunatic. We have gained enough from this giant ship. Let's set sail immediately. I won't stay here anymore. I will be in that giant ship in the future, Jia Yan said to Kama. As he was starting to leave, Kama's confused voice came from behind. Sir, what about, Master Suao? She asked in surprise. Jia Yan's footsteps paused, and then he slowly turned around. If Karma hadn't asked, he would have almost forgotten the subject. But when he turned around, he saw that Karma's expression was clear, and he couldn't help but feel sad. Speaking of which, the relationship between Kama and Suao is better. During the half-year wandering period in the deserted galaxy, Kama and Suao, the old monsters, traveled to many places and completed the tasks assigned by Jia Yan. The relationship between them, there must be no deep friendship. I'm sorry, Kama, Suao. Jia Yan said for a moment, and then continued without much pause. Suao was killed by a local monster in the superstar when he was fighting with me, he said calmly. This is a lie, but Jia Yan doesn't think there's anything wrong with saying it. Do you want him to say that after the old monster Suao regained his consciousness, he went to Shiyuan to plot against him, but was later killed by Jia Yan himself? Die. Jia Yan wouldn't say it. Even if some fleet members would think so, he would definitely not say it himself. It's not just his own reputation that's responsible for it. Because except for the encounter in the fog area, the relationship between Jia Yan and Suao was pretty good in the past. Moreover, the person is dead, so what's the point of talking about it and trying to smear him? Suao is dead. Kama's expression darkened when she heard this. She could faintly see that Jia Yan was hiding something about this, but so what? Kama knew more about what Suao did than the average fleet member. Even if it was really Jia Yan's hand, it could only be said that he was seeking death on his own. And Jia Yan didn't say anything, which meant that this adult still had a good impression of Suao. Hold a funeral for him tomorrow and take a life-extending stone from the inventory that he wanted very much during his lifetime as a sacrifice. Jia Yan shook his head. Okay, Kama's mood was obviously not very high, and he just nodded lightly. Jia Yan made some arrangements for several other matters, looked at Kama who looked uncomfortable, and then flew away from the camp-class spacecraft with a long sigh. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 647. Suao's funeral was quite grand. After all, he was the only starry sky-level expert in the fleet besides Jia Yan. Coupled with Kama's relationship, there were many members of the entire fleet attending the ceremony. Have. Meaning. Thinking. Book. UN. A miniature version of Suao made using technology replaced his real body and was thrown into the vast universe. A large number of fleet executives saluted him. The farewell salutes were fired continuously, blooming in the starry sky. The scene was extremely impressive, but among so many people attending the ceremony, there was only one missing person who should not have been absent, the top officer of the giant Mosquito fleet, Jia Yan. Jia Yan did not go to the ceremony because he felt that he was not suitable to attend the ceremony, so he used a not-so-clever excuse not to go. The salute exploded in the starry sky. In the slowly advancing fleet, in the supergiant ship Edisha, which was far larger than all the ships in the entire fleet, Jia Yan looked at the outside world indifferently. His huge compound eyes were flashing with an unknown luster, and he didn't know what he was thinking about the scene in front of him. This guy's life is very good. Senior Guangying suddenly appeared next to Jia Yan and said this. Huh? Is Suao's fortune good? Jia Yan looked over with some confusion. Seeing that Guangying had attracted Jia Yan's attention, he turned back, looked at Jia Yan and sighed softly. That's right, I said his life was good. Because after death, there are still so many people who remember him and care for him. Farewell. There are not many strong people in the entire universe who can receive such treatment. After hearing this, Jia Yan wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say for a moment. Senior Guangying seemed to have some deeper emotions. In fact, the feeling of living is sometimes better than death. For example, my master, when his strength was at its peak, almost chalked countless star fields, but his name still surpassed. No one remembers that on the road to pursuing the strong sense of existence becomes weaker and weaker. In the end, he can only die on that superstar. No one knows, and no one sees him off. Just like that to me, dying alone is not as happy as the death of your subordinate. Jia Yan was silent. At this moment, he had a feeling of empathy. He was thinking, if he died like this in this strange star field, would his final experience be the same as the senior's? His family on Earth didn't even know he was dead, and he just died alone. No, maybe not even as good as the senior. Jia Yan and the light and shadow monster were silent together, looking at the giant mosquito fleet body not far away, where artillery fire continued to explode. Yeah, maybe Suao is really happy. After a long silence, Jia Yan said. The light and shadow monster did not respond, and the two remained silent. The danger of this chaotic star field is no longer a problem for our fleet, but the secrets are no longer of great use to us, because the materials we have harvested are already good, and we cannot load more, so I suggest we leave here quickly and go to the northern star territory to maximize the harvest and convert it into the benefits we need. A beautiful female voice sounded in a huge square area. This is a place like a meeting hall. It is 200 meters long and about 50 meters wide. It is an extremely rare open space in a battleship. However, such a huge space is still full, and the reason is none other than the terrifying giant mosquito that occupies the center of the space, completely occupying the entire space. No matter how huge the space seems to other creatures, it doesn't feel so huge to today's giant mosquitoes. Except on the planet, it is almost difficult for Jia Yan to find a comfortable and huge space. However, he had long been familiar with this, and at the moment he was just listening to the discussions among the fleet executives on the left and right. The speaker was Kama. She was one of the senior officials who advocated leaving the Chaos Star territory immediately. However, there are naturally those who refute her. Of course, the most powerful person here is Mok. This monster is a rival to Kama. Although he completely lost a confrontation with Kama at the superstar in that mysterious place, when he learned that Mok advocated separating the entire fleet at that time, Jia Yan sent his most of the power was directly withdrawn. If there was not a shortage of capable people in the fleet at this moment, they might have been killed. However, although this guy no longer harbors any ill intentions towards Jia Yan, he is still fighting against Kama. What the marshal said is wrong. The entire Chaos Star territory is a mysterious place to the outside world. There may be more secrets here than just the giant star. We finally have a chance to enter this place. If we don't, how can I be worthy of this opportunity if I have a good exploration, and how can I be worthy of Lord Jia Yan, who has spent a lot of effort to help the fleet survive crisis after crisis? Most of the members of the entire fleet agreed with what Mok said. You must know that this is a real place to make a fortune. There have been people who have been awarded some precious prizes for operating the unmanned machinery before. Or, if there are no accidents, you can live a good life for the rest of your life by selling it. Most of these members join the giant mosquito fleet for their own benefit. They would definitely not be willing to leave like this right now. Mok, you are wrong to say that. Master Jia Yan has also said before that there are some beings in the mysterious land that we cannot afford to offend. We have gained enough. If we don't know what we are doing, those beings will appear and attack us. Wouldn't chasing and killing them harm the entire fleet? Kama said to him not to be outdone. Stop arguing, I've made my decision. Jia Yan saw that Mok was about to bring up what he said was an untouchable existence, so he directly interrupted the argument between the two parties. Mok, your words make sense, but in my opinion, there is really nothing better in this Chaos Star territory. We should follow our previous plan and leave this Chaos Star territory as quickly as possible. In the Northern Star territory, there are still some things I have to rush over there to do, Jia Yan said calmly. Yes, sir. After hearing what Jia Yan said, Mok didn't even dare to fart and nodded quickly. After hearing what Jia Yan said, Kama immediately behaved like a victorious hen and sneered at Mok. Jia Yan shook his head. Although he had always believed in the reading materials he had read on Earth, and cut off the power of his subordinates, he thought that it would spur them a little, but in this way, his ears were also extremely sensitive. It was uncomfortable, and conflicting things between the two often came to his ears, which made him extremely bored. After setting the tone for the fleet to leave, the next thing is simple. For Big Mosquito, he doesn't know much about navigation, so the next thing doesn't have much to do with him. He just sends out just order it. When he returned to the Edisha, which made all fleet members feel mysterious. Jia Yan, I will try my best to improve your strength within 2 years. However, regarding promotion to the star level, I tell you in advance that you cannot rely too much on the essence and blood of the master. Your strength will not improve due to various factors. Although it is extremely fast, it leaves too many hidden dangers. You have to know that the strength of the strongest people in the entire universe does not come in vain. If your strength improves so quickly, you must have to pay. But in the past, what you paid was your own pain and luck, and again you were lucky enough to survive. But if you take shortcuts for your future promotion, death will be the only thing waiting for you. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. On the Edisha, the light and shadow monster in front of Jia Yan gave some instructions to Jia Yan, the giant mosquito. This is already the 3rd day after the fleet set off. When the entire fleet moves forward, the mysterious giant star behind it, which is as huge as a star, becomes far smaller. No matter how huge it is, for the entire universe and the speed of the fleet, it is after all, it is just a star. In the past 3 days, in addition to arranging the fleet matters and attending Lao Suao's funeral, Jia Yan has been studying with this light and shadow monster. Of course, you don't have to worry. Although your strength has been greatly deviated by external forces before, your current strength is still too weak. It's your luck to meet me. I must have taught you that your body will be stronger, able to self-regulate. I have never seen a body as powerful as yours. You are only a starry sky level, but you have such terrible physical conditions. I will definitely help your body adjust well, and it will not take 2 years, just a few months later, your strength will improve like a rocket. Thank you, Senior. When Jia Yan heard the words of Senior Guangying, he and immediately felt happy in his heart. For him, his strength was becoming less and less powerful than those of the same level, and he had been there for a long time. He felt a little depressed. When he met this light and shadow monster, he realized that it was not his lack of talent, but the reason why he had not learned much through systematic combat at all. In fact, thinking about it, Jia Yan himself felt that he was a bit unfaithful. A monster who had barely learned how to become stronger actually staggered towards becoming stronger step by step, and even reached the top level of the starry sky. Thinking about it like this, his talent is not only powerful, but truly heaven-defying. Okay, this change is not that simple. I have planned several stages for you. Now let's start the first 2 months, starting with some changes in your body's practice habits. There's no rush, there's plenty of time. Let's see how I torture you, no, how I train you. Haha. The entire giant Mosquito fleet didn't know that the leader of their fleet, the monster, was not hiding in the Edisha after getting the huge Edisha, but was experiencing something far more terrifying than they imagined. Practice. If you tell me, the entire fleet may not believe it. This is the first time that Jia Yan, an extremely powerful man, has practiced the system. For him, his current strength is completely like a rocket. Go ahead. I don't know how powerful this terrifying giant mosquito monster will be after arriving in the Northern Star territory. Perhaps, it will exceed everyone's expectations. The Chaos Star Realm volume is over. The next volume begins with the arrival of the Northern Star Territory volume, an even bigger stage, and it is also the stage where Big Mosquito continues to shine as a strong man. I hope everyone can subscribe and support Bayou with genuine subscription, thank you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 648. Chaos Star Field. This is a mysterious area spanning about 3 light years. Have. Meaning. Thinking. Book. Academy. Due to the barrier of the Chaos Star territory, the civilizations in the Star territory were cut apart. Although it was only a 3 light-year barrier, it still formed the boundaries of several civilized areas. Completely blocked from it is the great hegemonic empire of the entire Thorf Star territory, the Loci Empire, as well as another Southern Star territory, and the Northern Star territory composed of many small countries. The Northern Star territory is the area in a broad sense that is closest to the Desolate Star territory. Unlike several other areas, it has a stable political power. Instead, it is a starry sky area composed of hundreds of countries, large and small. Although wars continue, in the face of invasion from the outside world, this star field, which is far inferior to the Loci Empire or the powerful forces in the Southern Star Field, will unite again. The coalition they formed may not be comparable to the Southern Star Territory or the Loci Empire, but it has still successfully blocked the invading armies of the two main enemies from outside the region in the past history. Although the reasons for this are very complicated, there are reasons why the Loci Empire does not care about this small starry sky and always acts haphazardly. There are also reasons why the economy of the Southern Star region is not very good and there will be no stamina in the event of a protracted war. However, this all means that this war-torn area has a relatively strong fighting power, if one day the entire area unites. Maybe the burst of energy would startle the Loci Empire. The Chaos Star territory is the buffer zone between the 3 major forces. It is unlikely that anyone will allow the large fleet to invade through the Chaos region, so this is the final barrier to the 3 areas. On this day, a Northern Star Alliance fleet stationed on the outskirts of the Chaos Star territory discovered a fluctuation in the fleet's light in the Chaos Star territory. Warning, warning. Please report your name to the fleet ahead. The entire fleet was a little restless, and there was a hint of vigilance for the coming existence. For an Alliance fleet, this place is the Chaos Star territory, and it is not a key defense place, so their garrison cannot many. The number of incoming fleets shown in the signal actually reached hundreds. This number is not much different from their number. This army is the giant Mosquito fleet, coming from the desolate galaxy not long after, the mysterious fleet sent back such a message. Giant Mosquito fleet? It's the one who was kicked out by the top 10 strong men in the previous remote communication, Jia Yan, right? It turns out it's them. In the Alliance fleet, the highest officer of the fleet was riding on the flagship. He listened to the reports of his subordinates. It directly reminds me of the message I received before. For the Desolate Star Territory, these frontier generals in the Northern Star Territory have always been more concerned about it, but they all have the attitude of watching monkeys playing, because compared to the Northern Star Territory, the Desolate Star Territory is really a small place, just a galaxy. Forget it, Despite the fact that the northern starfield only spans more than 20 galaxies, this is definitely not just a 1+1 relationship, but a geometrically powerful one, because in addition to more than 20 galaxies, the empty space area also more means that there are also more resources. Overall, the northern star field is likely to be hundreds of times more powerful than the barren galaxy. There are also differences in the strong men. Although there are no star-level strong men in the northern star region, there are more than 100 venerable-level strong men. Even more terrifying are the half-star level experts. Because they are always coming and going, the number of half-star level experts in the northern star territory is unknown. However, there are at least about 10 people who are permanent residents in the northern star territory. Any one of these strong men is dispatched to sweep across the desolate galaxy at will. In other words, the desolate galaxy is originally a place controlled by some forces in the northern star region. The so-called top 10 strong men are almost all from the northern star region. Therefore, the defending fleet did not pay much attention to the rumored Lord Jiayan in this deserted galaxy. The only thing they saw was the rumored giant Mosquito fleet. It seemed that the overall number was larger than what was reported, which made them a little surprised. This giant Mosquito fleet is much stronger than what was reported, and the time it arrived at us was wrong. How could it be so fast? Didn't they go along the border of the Chaos Star territory? The commander of the fleet looked a little surprised. Follow the identification signal on the screen. After thinking for a while, he couldn't figure out the reason, but he didn't want to think about it anymore. In fact, after seeing the giant Mosquito fleet, he was a little surprised at the opponent's speed, but he didn't have much fear. After all, the giant Mosquito fleet was, although the strength seems to be strong, for his fleet, it is only between the two. In addition to theirs, the Northern Star Fleet in this area also has 2 other teams. If there is a fight, they will come to help at any time. Mr. General, this giant Mosquito fleet has sent us an entry application. Do we want to let them pass? Just as the commander was assessing the strength of the giant Mosquito fleet, the adjutant next to him asked. Let it go, it's not much if we have a giant Mosquito fleet like him in the Northern Star region, and it's not a big deal if we don't have a force like him, as long as we don't blatantly use the banner of the Losai Empire and the Southern Star region. Alas! The commander didn't think much and said directly. In space, 2 opposing fleets passed each other. The distance between the 2 is extremely close. The Northern Star region side regards the giant Mosquito fleet as a fleet of bumpkin from the countryside, while the giant Mosquito fleet is extremely confident due to its continuous deeds, so its momentum is pretty good. The 2 sides actually got so close to the bridge that they were almost touching each other, and then they slowly moved away from each other. The gravitational impact caused by the fleets of both sides almost made the other side's alarm go off, but the 2 still did not retreat. That's right, the one passing by the Northern Alliance fleet is the giant Mosquito fleet led by Jiayan. However, the Edisha is missing from the fleet at this moment. Sir, it's a pity that the Edisha cannot join our ranks. However, its condition is not good. If it is dispatched rashly, it will cause danger to the fleet. If you leave it at the border, rescue can be dispatched under certain circumstances. Consider it a compromised choice. In the Camp-class spacecraft in the giant Mosquito fleet, next to Jiayan's huge body, Kama said with a little regret. Jiayan's huge 50-meter body was lying on a large piece of ground on the Camp-class spacecraft. He was also a little regretful. Kama, you have to understand that the Edisha cannot appear here. We are following the unspoken rules and entering the Northern Star territory as a caravan from the deserted galaxy. If the Edisha appears, it will not be normal event, let alone entering, the entire Northern Star territory will attack us because of the appearance of the Edisha. Regarding the existence of the Edisha, the entire giant Mosquito fleet still doesn't know much about it, but Jiayan himself knows that the Edisha is not in a complete state and has no effect at all other than being eye-catching. It is better to let it wait. A hidden place in the chaotic area. Jia Yan, you don't have to worry. I have turned on the ultra-remote control function. In addition to not being able to control it as freely as if it were right in front of me, I can control its simple movements as long as we are within the northern star field. In a small corner of Jia Yan's crouching body, a piece of equipment made a faint sound, but only Jia Yan could hear the sound. Okay, Senior. But it is unlikely that we will use the Edissa. After all, with the current state of the Edissa, it is not invincible in the northern star field. It may cause some semi-star level beings to attack. It's inappropriate to covet it, Jia Yan said to the machine solemnly. Listening to his words, this machine is actually the temporary residence of the Senior Light and Shadow. But this must be what Jia Yan wants to see. The existence of Senior Light and Shadow is the same as the existence of the Edisha. They are both things that have an extremely impact on ordinary existence. Jia Yan does not want to suffer here just after arriving in the Chaos Star territory. The attention of the strong and powerful. The two fleets slowly passed each other. This giant Mosquito fleet is indeed extraordinary. Legend has it that they have just formed an army, and they have such a terrifying demeanor of a strong army. Judging from their appearance, the commander must not be a country bumpkin. Maybe he is. Maybe a combat professional born in a major. In the command flagship of the Northern Fleet, the adjutant was surprised by the commanding skills of the commander of the giant Mosquito fleet. With so many warships passing by, the professionals here felt sweaty, but the commanders and operators on the other side seemed to be at ease. Of course, the adjutant was just surprised. The performance of the giant Mosquito fleet could be achieved by commanders born in the Northern Star region who were a little more powerful. However, without any actual battle, the performance of the giant Mosquito fleet was far inferior to the performance of the giant Mosquito fleet. He was shocked to the point of being shocked. After the two fleets passed each other, the Northern Fleet just stayed there calmly. As for the giant Mosquito fleet, they continued to move forward without incident. The defenses in the Northern Star territory are as loose as legend has it. It seems that the conflict between the countries and forces here has indeed reached an unimaginable situation. Looking at the motionless defense fleet from a distance, Jia Yan felt incredible. Boss, you don't understand our Northern Star territory. The so-called Alliance fleet here is no different from non-existence. The invasion of the Losai Empire and the Southern Star territory didn't wipe out all the front guard fleets, so we hurriedly gathered combat strength. The so-called Alliance fleets are usually good if they don't fight each other, smiled bitterly at Jia Yan on the side. Jia Yan just nodded in response to his explanation, and then he felt a little happy in his heart. The chaos in the Northern Star field is of course better for him. Some of the things he wants to do here will be more difficult to do in an area that is more tightly controlled. This kind of Northern Star field is the most suitable for him. It's a new volume, please subscribe. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 649. Now that the Northern Star territory is like this, my actions will be much smoother, and in the Chaos Star territory, after leaving the star of that mysterious place for 3 full months, my strength has also made great progress. Now I might be able to fight against a powerful person of the venerable level. Even if I am not there yet, as long as Senior Guangying is here, my strength will continue to improve, and one day I will be able to deal with them. Of course there is another advantage, that is, the combat power of the Aditha will be slowly restored with the maintenance of my search for technicians and equipment. There. Meaning. Thinking. Book. The hospital arrives, when the two advantages of personal strength and Aditha are combined. So to me, as time goes by, the Northern Star territory will become safer and safer. After thinking a lot, Jia Yan still didn't have any thoughts of giving up and returning to the Chaos Star territory to practice and wait until he was stronger. Because what he wants to do is relatively urgent. Don't let him waste time. I hope the technology in the Northern Star Territory contains a plan for me to return to Earth. I heard Kama say before that he seemed to have some clues. Jia Yan looked at the dark starry sky with some expectancy, as if waiting for the new world that was about to come. Even though he had experienced a lot in the bustling star field, there was still a thought lingering in his heart, that is, the thought of returning to his hometown of Earth, which made Jia Yan always urge himself to do it as soon as possible. Become strong enough to get a plan to return to Earth. Sir, there are hundreds of countries in the Northern Star Territory. Some of the countries here are extremely powerful, and some are extremely weak. The powerful ones are such as the Bala Empire established by the Bala family. One country occupies 2 star systems. And the Parang Empire also occupies 2 galaxies, and there are several other empires that completely occupy 1 galaxy. Of course, among these hundreds of countries, there are more countries that share the same planet. This kind of country, most of them are alliances. But there are gaps between alliances. For example, the border defense fleet we encountered before is an alliance established by several countries on the border, the Hota Chaos Star Territory Border Guard Force. Referred to as the Hota Border Defense Force. However, there are agreements between alliances. On some formal occasions, each alliance almost belongs to the same camp, the Northern Star Alliance. But in fact, the terms in these agreements are extremely confusing. There are always alliances or alliances. The Empire launched a war under the pretext of the terms of the alliance, and the war in the entire Northern Star Territory can be said to be caused by these alliance terms. Kama explained some of the details of the Northern Star Territory to the Big Mosquito. She seems to be extremely familiar with the specific affairs of the Northern Star Territory, at least much more than she originally knew about the affairs of the barren galaxy. It seems that she has been involved in the political circles of the Northern Star Territory for a long time. It turns out that the water in the Northern Star field is so deep, and there is an example of a half-star strong person who single-handedly destroyed a small country with just a disagreement. Jia Yan was extremely shocked when he heard this. Yes, that was just something that happened 20 years ago, but the alliance of that small country started a war with the other alliance because of it. It seems that the war is not over yet. Kama shrugged. Can't even a half-star power be used as a decisive force in the alliance war? This Northern Star region is indeed a warlike area. We can't be too arrogant when we come here. After hearing this, Jia Yan felt a little bit, he thought to himself while sticking out his tongue. But my lord, I don't have anything to worry about. For these alliances, it is impossible to start a war with a fleet from other places that has no money to make money. On the contrary, they are extremely eager to win over. If I am thinking correctly, alliance forces will come to contact us soon, Kama said without any sympathy for Jia Yan's concerns. While Kama was speaking, the fleet's correspondent happened to receive a communication message. Lord Jia Yan, Marshal Kama, and the Hota Border Guard Alliance sent an invitation letter, saying that they would like our fleet to visit their headquarters. They also said that they have important matters to discuss. Listening to the correspondent's words, Jia Yan looked at Kama with some admiration, showing some doubts about Kama's identity. However, Kama obviously didn't know Jia Yan's thoughts, and just smiled slightly at this moment. It seemed that after arriving in her own star field, her nature gradually recovered, and she actually became a bit ladylike. But she was still her. After Kama smiled calmly, he laughed happily directly to Jia Yan. How about it, boss? What I said is right. The other party wants to invite us now, but I suggest that you should go and have a look during this visit. After all, this is also a good opportunity to compare the differences between our fleet and the Northern Fleet. And for those who are new here, our fleet immediately assumed an uncooperative attitude and put the larger forces. It's bad if you offend someone. And I have thought about it. The strength of the Hota Border Guard is actually not very strong. They are controlled by several major countries in the rear. Although they intend to go out independently, because the logistics resources are provided by several major countries, they are not able to do so at all. It may be possible to achieve complete independence, but because of the rebellion, the strength is too restricted. There is probably no danger for our fleet to enter their base camp. If we go to visit, don't charge too many benefits from the other party. I think they will wait until we refuse. There won't be much anger. Kama analyzed it clearly and clearly. According to her, the Howdah Border Guard Alliance is just a small alliance in the Northern Star region. She actually understands it so well. This shows how well she understands the entire Northern Star region. Maybe she is still there. Above Jia Yan's estimate. Well, since you suggest so, our fleet will accept their invitation. I have long wanted to see the prosperity of the Northern Star region, and now it just opens my eyes. Jia Yan didn't have much. He retorted with a smile. Anyway, he didn't find any big flaws in Kama's statement, and the two have been in contact for so long. He also believed in Kama's character and believed that she would not deceive him on this point. The entire giant Mosquito fleet slowly changed its advancing formation, and fired with full power in a certain direction in the starry sky. Howdah Border Guard Alliance. This is a military organization close to the Chaos Star territory, and its establishment can be traced back hundreds of years. Hundreds of years ago, a partial army of the Losai Empire sent troops to the Northern Star territory without authorization. The method was to pass through the Chaos Star territory, which no one believed that a large fleet could pass through at that time. As a result, under the orders of the top officials of the Losai Empire, when the partial army returned to the Empire and apologized, the entire border galaxy in the Northern Star region was already in dilapidated state. Because it was a breakthrough that no one believed in, the loss of the border galaxy Howdah could be said to have set back more than a few hundred years. As a result, a border guard force dispatched by several other major alliances was stuck in Howdah. Their full name is Howdah Alliance Border Guards. But in the next few hundred years, the enemy Losai Empire that the Howdah Border Guards had been defending did not appear. Instead, the Losai Empire attacked the Northern Star region several times through other channels, which made the Howdah Border Guards several times. He almost had his military title revoked. As it becomes weaker and weaker, the senior leaders of the Howdah army also have their thoughts. The unique political chaos in the Northern Star region is so strange. Their army, which originally belonged to other alliances, actually officially obtained the Northern Star decades ago. With the consent of the Domain Alliance headquarters, it became a new alliance equivalent to other alliance forms, with the power of autonomy. Their semi-independence is naturally blocked by several major interest alliances, but the entire Northern Star territory is in such chaos, and they have no other choice but to implement economic sanctions first, and then the option of war. On this day, on an Earth-like planet near the headquarters of the Howdah Border Guard Force in the Chaos Star territory, salutes rang out. With the sound of the salute, a large fleet was seen in the starry sky, slowly driving down. On behalf of the Howdah Border Guard Alliance, I sincerely welcome the arrival of all of you from the giant Mosquito fleet. What you all see is the welcome salute of our fleet. It consists of 1,500 rounds, which represents the 1,500 anti-foreign wars in the history of Howdah Star. It also represents the legal status of the Howdah Alliance. Independent status in history. Please also know that your excellencies from the desolate galaxy are waiting for you on the Howdah Star. There are 200 million citizens of the Howdah Alliance and tens of millions of Howdah Border Guard soldiers. I believe in your army. The arrival of the book will bring a qualitative improvement to our relationship, and will also be a new chapter in the relationship between the two parties. Along with the broadcasts and communications, the entire announcement to welcome the giant Mosquito fleet could not only be heard by the stunned giant Mosquito fleet, but also could be heard clearly on the Howdah planet. Huh? What's going on? Jia Yan, who was on the fleet, was also shocked. It took the giant Mosquito fleet almost 10 days to arrive at the Howdah Star. After all, the Hoda star was still some distance away from the real Chaos Star territory. During these 10 days, Jia Yan believed Kama's words and thought he came here just to show his face, and then left without a trace. But including him and Kama, the entire giant Mosquito fleet did not expect that they would be greeted by such a grand scene. "I'll go, boss, I was wrong. The information we just received is that the Houda alliance has recently been fighting for legal independence from the major alliances behind them. We are the first ones to come and visit after they start a fight. External forces, they are deliberately making such a big fuss and using us as guns." Suddenly Kama got a piece of information and said to Jia Yan with a wry smile. Jia Yan was stunned. Although he had always known about the chaos in the northern star field, he was still a little unexpected to encounter such a thing when he first arrived. "But the giant Mosquito fleet is already here, so we can't just say we made a mistake and just return, right? Besides, those 1,500 cannons, in addition to being used as salutes, were now aimed at the entire giant Mosquito fleet. Not only are they salutes, they can also fire real anti-aircraft shells. Go down. Anyway, for us, there is no harm in being used as a gunner. Those alliance forces will not attack our fleet for this reason, right?" Jia Yan said, a little depressed. Second update, please subscribe. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito, author, Bulletin U. Chapter 650. Before the members of the giant mosquito fleet arrived, they never thought that their first encounter in this northern star field with many powerful forces would be such a grand welcome. Have? Meaning? Think? Horda is a yellow planet the size of Mars, with not many places for vegetation to grow on it. The entire planet is covered with various military facilities. The population of 200 million is not that large for the entire planet, and there are not many powerful individuals among them. At least according to Kama's intelligence, only the Houda planet is known to have, in addition to one top-level venerable level combatant, there are only 3 top-level military commanders in the starry sky who can fight against Jia Yan. Of course, the combat effectiveness of a military planet is not only measured by the number of strong men. After all, here in the Northern Star Territory, strength is not absolute. The technology here can be very effective when facing enemies at the starry sky level. To a large extent, it makes up for the gap in strength, not to mention that the current giant mosquito fleet, let alone a strong one, even lags behind the opponent in terms of technological strength. Fortunately, there is no conflict of interest between the two. Jia Yan did not come here to start a war. Boom 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 boom. With the sound of salutes, the camp-class warships of the giant mosquito fleet entered the defense circle of Houda Star under the warm welcome of the opponent. After all, it is the territory of an unfamiliar force. It is impossible for Jia Yan and Kama to directly let the entire fleet enter the Houda planet. Therefore, in addition to the camp-class spacecraft that have gone down to the planet at this moment, there are only a few ships carrying some of the high-level officials. Battleship. Even if Jia Yan wants the entire fleet to enter the opponent's planet, Houda planet must not agree to it. After all, the relationship between the two is not that good yet. The camp-class spacecraft originated from the Kudatan people has been strengthened and renovated several times by Jia Yan, plus planning and transformation by some modification experts in the fleet. Not to mention its current combat effectiveness, its appearance alone is still quite impressive. At this moment, it ranks first in public. Ahead, the flames rushing into the atmosphere were quite impressive. In this camp-level spacecraft, Jia Yan saw a small filming aircraft beside him that was following and filming all the way. Dear viewers, as good friends of our Houda alliance, the flagship of the giant mosquito fleet is a huge battleship with a length of 2 kilometers. Look at the armor on it. All this represents the terrifying power of this battleship. It must be huge. Lord Jia Yan, the supreme leader of the mosquito fleet, also attaches great importance to this friendly meeting, so he dispatched the most powerful flagship in the giant Mosquito fleet to enter the planet. Along the way, Jia Yan listened to the praises for his fleet on the radio. There was nothing before, but now when he heard the other party say that the camp-level spacecraft of his fleet was actually a powerful battleship, even his old face turned red. This Houda civilization is really ridiculous. The main purpose of building the Kudatan camp-class spaceship was to escape from the Kudatan people. Not to mention the combat effectiveness, it was not certain whether ordinary merchant ships could defeat it. Now if the other party brags like this, anyone who knows something about battleships will know that this is a lie. But the other party likes to say this, and Jia Yan has nothing to refute. Several warships landed quickly. They landed on a planet with ordinary gravity, so there was no chance of any accidents. In addition to watching the filming aircraft following the spacecraft, Jia Yan also noticed the environment of the planet. There is not much vegetation on this planet, and the cities are built on some yellow sand. Because the overall number of citizens is not large, the houses are sparse. However, there are many lives that should be rare on the ground at this moment. Some of them have horizontal symbols with the words "Welcome to the Giant Mosquito Fleet" written in the Northern Star domain font. What Jia Yan learned was the language of the Northern Star region. Of course, it is said that the writing of this star region is actually a variant of the writing of the Losai Empire. There is not much difference between the two languages. The further down you go, the more clearly you can see the welcoming lives on the ground. When Jia Yan and his party followed the other party's guidance and landed at their designated spaceship port, they saw almost overwhelming people outside the entire port. They are citizens of this planet. Boo! Jia Yan only heard the sound of his spacecraft landing slowly. Then there was an extremely crazy sound that almost drowned his tentacles and ears. "Welcome to your excellencies from the giant Mosquito fleet. Welcome, welcome. Your Excellency, the true friend of the Houda Alliance, the giant Mosquito fleet, has arrived." Even the warships with good soundproofing effects can barely cover up the deafening sound from the outside world. Looking through the screen, it can be seen that the residents of Houda City in the outside world are all small beings, and their races are also of various types. Most of them are even like Kama, they are a race similar to Earthlings. Don't be surprised, sir. Among the main races in the Northern Star territory, there is my race, the Bella clan. Fortunately, Kama seemed a little curious about Jia Yan and immediately explained. In fact, she was also surprised by Jia Yan's previous performances. For a shrewd woman like Kama, she had already discovered that the big mosquito seemed to be curious and observant about her race. At this moment, she saw that Jia Yan was once again interested in the Bella clan in the outside world. With some curious eyes, it suddenly became clearer what I was seeing. Master Jia Yan probably has some connections with the Bella clan or the Kudatan clan. Otherwise, how could he always help and pay attention to these two similar races? When the camp-level spacecraft hatch opened, the cheers from the outside world became louder. The entire world was filled with praise for the giant Mosquito fleet. Is our fleet so famous?" Several fleet executives following behind Big Mosquito muttered. "How do I know? The people in Houda planet are probably taking drugs," another interlocutor shrugged. "Okay, don't talk. We may be a breakthrough in diplomacy for Houda Star, but for us, the other party is not a breakthrough. You guys behave better, our fleet is in this Northern Star field. Don't be embarrassed when you show up for the first time." Kama cursed at the senior officials of the giant Mosquito fleet who were chatting. In fact, the senior officials present were all human beings. Everyone knew the thoughts of the senior officials of Houda Star, but in fact, they seemed to be used in this way as if they were being calculated. These high-level officials are not comfortable. But when Kama said this, these people reacted one by one. She was really right. The Houda Alliance uses them as pawns, and the giant Mosquito fleet that has just arrived in this star field uses them as pawns. The giant Mosquito fleet may also be able to greatly increase its exposure rate through this method. Quickly establish a foothold in the Northern Star territory where there are many powerful people and forces. After thinking about this, these senior officials immediately stopped talking and became much more energetic following the giant Mosquito's huge body. Jia Yan observed his subordinates at the rear and nodded with satisfaction. Although these guys were a little tempered, they seemed to really agree with the fleet, otherwise they wouldn't be so angry with the Howdah alliance. What he naturally didn't know was that his own performance in the Chaos Star territory had conquered all his subordinates. You must know that not only his strength, but also the appearance of the Edishas seemed to indicate that he was only a giant. The Mosquito monster is different. If you really follow a being who will grow into a star level in the future, you don't know to what extent the status of each of your subordinates will be improved. Naturally, they treat the giant Mosquito fleet more attentively. Click, click, click. When Jia Yan appeared outside the cabin door with his own steps, a burst of light flashed from the outside world, and it turned out that the photo technology similar to that on Earth was flashing. A large welcoming team was waiting outside. Jia Yan's eyes sparkled when he saw the person at the head of the team. This was a behemoth that seemed to be 100 meters away, and Jia Yan even looked pale in front of it. His appearance is that of a tiger, only more muscular and unrivaled in strength. What a powerful monster! Although it is also a high-level monster in the starry sky, it must be much stronger than the top 10 strong men in that desolate galaxy. Jia Yan looked at the existence of this monster, and a trace of fear flashed through his eyes. But it's just a little bit of fear. You have to know that his strength can resist all the monsters in the top 10 levels. This monster is probably stronger than the most powerful existence in the top 10. For a trace, is no longer a strong threat to Jia Yan today. Welcome, Lord Jia Yan. I have long heard that your strength is extraordinary. Today, I saw that it is even scarier than the rumors. The tiger came with a strange sound. There was a slight twinkle in his eyes. He must be really interested in Jia Yan. There was a hint of fear in his strength. Thank you. Jia Yan smiled and stepped forward. The shot of the two monsters standing together has been continuously photographed by countless media. This image will surely become the front page of the entire planet tomorrow. The meeting between the two leaders was just a show, and it was impossible to say anything here. For Jia Yan, this was the first time for him to be treated like this, so he didn't feel any discomfort despite the novelty. After some introductions from the accompanying personnel, the tiger monster smiled at Jia Yan. Master Jia Yan, you have worked hard all the way. Please go to the place where we entertain distinguished guests and rest. Okay, you're ready. Jia Yan nodded. He didn't feel too much artillery fire locking here, especially after he showed a bit of strength that vaguely surpassed the tiger-headed monster. The artillery fire disappeared completely. For strong people with strength, the entire universe will have a little respect. This is a general rule everywhere. Two behemoths entered a giant vehicle specially prepared for huge monsters like them. This was the first time for Jia Yan to ride in a similar car. He was a little surprised at first, but after using his energy sense to look at it, he found that the car was just moving steel equipped with ordinary energy, so he stopped paying attention. Master Jia Yan, our arrangement is just a coincidence. I hope you don't mind. We don't have any ill intentions towards you. After getting into the car, the tiger-headed monster apologized directly to Jia Yan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 651. I understand your thoughts, but if we weren't good-tempered about this kind of thing, I would have been angry a long time ago. Your Excellency Obiki, if there will be something similar next time, I hope you will be more honest and tell me what you want in advance. Please explain it to the person you invited. Jia Yan looked at the tiger-headed monster and suddenly showed a hint of coldness. I will, feeling the energy emanating from Jia Yan suddenly increase, the tiger-headed monster felt a chill all over his body, and he quickly let out an apologetic sound. At the same time, the monster was also a little angry. How on earth does the intelligence collection department work? They actually said that Jia Yan's strength is not much different from mine. Now they send me out to be a head shorter than him. Do they want to embarrass me? What a bastard! Huge steel vehicles are walking on the ground. The planning of this planet is pretty good, so the roads are extremely huge. Jia Yan, on the other hand, was chatting with the tiger-headed monster while observing the customs on the planet. The tiger-headed monster would not talk about any important issues at this moment. He would just talk about some experiences or introduce the past of this planet. However, Jia Yan understood what he was saying. This guy has been showing off the independent history of this planet. I want him to agree with this prerequisite setting. Jia Yan did not express his position, but was attracted by the first city he saw in the Northern Star territory. The city they are in now is the capital city of Houda Star. The whole city still looks like it, but this city retains many traces of its former war city. Fortresses that have been transformed into private houses can be seen everywhere, reminding those who come here of the existence of this planet. The history of the planet. As for the prosperity, Jia Yan really didn't see much of it. If he hadn't seen items that far exceeded the technology of Earth people everywhere, as well as intelligent creatures that were different from humans, Jia Yan would have doubted whether this was the Earth. Welcome, welcome, a thin voice came from outside the controlled traffic thoroughfare, attracting Jia Yan's attention. It turns out that this is a little boy from the Bella clan who is very similar to the people on Earth. He is about 5 or 6 years old, similar to the children on Earth. He is wearing a kind of high-tech clothes and holding a giant mosquito fleet in his hand to announce to the public, with the military flag of a giant mosquito kept swaying. The kid was riding on a children's flying machine that looked like a skateboard, and it was flying along the side of the road with its tail spitting out flames. There were people welcoming him all the way. His operation was pretty good and he didn't bump into anyone. But in front of an advertising panel, the kid still bumped into the panel. With a bang, the skateboard aircraft hit it, and the child flew up, hitting a big bag on his head. If it fell to the ground like this, the child would definitely suffer serious injuries. Huh? These civilians of the Bella clan are so chaotic. They must be managed well next time. The tiger-headed monster was just a little angry at this scene, and seemed unhappy that the child was going to be embarrassed in front of Jia Yan. But what he didn't expect was that Jia Yan, a big mosquito, would emit a burst of brainwave power after a change of expression. Ah! The screaming little boy's body was suspended in mid-air just before he hit the ground. Then he landed gently on the ground, and at the same time a faint sound reached his ears. Kid, stop being naughty and go home. This voice was filled with a very beautiful meaning to the Bella family, and it was a gentle young male voice. Huh, the little boy suddenly stopped looking like he was about to cry, and looked at the huge car leaving in surprise. Ah! Master Giant Mosquito saved a child of the Bella clan. This master is indeed very friendly to us Houda people. A reporter on the side shouted, and he quickly took pictures of the child. Hearing him shouting like this, other reporters and ordinary people also took pictures of this child. You must know that these days, it is difficult for them in the Houda alliance to see a foreign guest. The appearance of the giant mosquito fleet, and also to it is huge news that the Houda people are so friendly. They don't care which corner the giant mosquito fleet came from. They are still an outside force anyway, right? As long as it is an outside force, it will be of great help to their Houda star. Under the promotion of their media, even a wandering fleet can be said to be a foreign guest with huge international influence. This seems to have established the international status of their Houda star. In the giant steel car ahead, Jia Yan heard the discussion behind him and shook his head helplessly. Lord Jia Yan, the headquarters of our force is right in front of you. To welcome you today, our strongest man, Lord Menbo, also attended today's welcoming meeting. The tiger-headed man saw Jia Yan's actions, and for Jia Yan his favorability has also improved a bit. Although he doesn't have a good impression of the rescued Bella clan, he still thinks that Jia Yan's actions are a good intention for their Howda planet. Thank you, Jia Yan nodded. Anyway, he came to this planet just because he didn't want to refuse the other party's kindness. In addition, he really wanted to see if the other party needed something on this planet. The supplies he sells are, after all, the supplies he brought out from the Chaos Star territory. If they are not replaced with other items, they will only occupy space on the battleship. Now I have the opportunity to meet most of the top executives on this planet, and I just happened to do this. As for the strongest person on Howda Star, are you at the level of a venerable in the Northern Star region? Jia Yan's eyes flashed. On the main planet of Howda Star, the existence of the entire capital city is an unspeakable peace of mind for the people of Howda Star. Not only because this is the headquarters of the Central Military Forces, but also because here is the strongest person on the entire planet, Menbo. Take charge. Menbo is an existence that has reached the level of Lord of the Starry Sky. For the entire Howda Alliance, this is the most powerful existence and the top existence in the entire alliance. Since many years ago, the Howda Alliance has been under the protection of this being. They slowly entered the era of self-regulation. To the residents of the entire Howda Star, this being was on the same level as a great man. This being is a behemoth about 150 meters in size. He has a long horn on his head and an unusual look. If it were Jia Yan, he would definitely think that this guy is similar to the people on Earth. Legend has it that it has a ghostly face. That's right, this monster is actually the same as the evil ghosts from hell on Earth. It's all blood red, but it's only 150 meters tall, which adds to its terrifying aura. At this time, Menbo was in the headquarters of the Naida Alliance, holding a giant wooden stick in his hand and moving his thighs, seemingly very stiff. You woke me up in seclusion not for the attack of the Red Tower Alliance, but for some kind of giant mosquito fleet. Do you know that my strength has reached a critical point? Maybe this breakthrough will become a semi-constant. Is it a star? It's simply abominable, the 150-meter tall strong man kept roaring in anger. Sir, you have been talking about a breakthrough for more than 200 years. When has there been a real breakthrough? Although the fleet coming this time is not famous, this is our first diplomacy after we declared independence, and this is the giant mosquito fleet still has some strength. Maybe they will gain a certain reputation in the world in the future. Then we can use it for publicity. Don't neglect it. The adjutant on the side seemed not to be afraid of the momentum of this expert at all. And he was giving a very disrespectful lesson. No, this time is really the moment for me to break through. This guy bothered me. I'm going to try him later. Ho ho, Menbo roared angrily, but he still obeyed and put on his clothes to welcome the distinguished guests. Clothing. By the way, what did the troops of the Hungta Alliance do? They actually said that our names were one word different from theirs, and then said that we were historically their territory and wanted to annex our Howda Alliance. Huh. Sir, the Red Tower Alliance's army still hasn't made any move. They said last time that they would give us 2 years to think about it. Now there is still 1 year before the deadline. I believe they will not take action against us in advance regardless of international public opinion. That's good, Hung Hung. Let's go meet Jia Yan, the so-called giant mosquito clan. I've never heard of the giant mosquito clan before. I want to see the strength of this strange race later, he hung. Boom, boom, boom. The huge ghost monster opened its legs and walked towards the meeting hall of Howda headquarters. On the other side, the huge car body just arrived. Jia Yan followed the tiger-headed monster down to the ground and was immediately surprised. The combat power of the Howdah Star was now displayed in front of him. It turned out that where he got off the bus, right in front of him was the port where the enemy's headquarters docked warships. Looking for bookstore, I didn't know why this planet needed tens of millions of soldiers before, but now I finally know the reason. On this headquarters site, more than 2,000 warships are lined up in a row, standing quietly on the ground, and the entire port is relatively empty. It seems that the warships that can be accommodated here are far more than 2,000 warships. Jia Yan looked at the number of battleships here. He was not only surprised by the number, but also by the quality of the battleships here. You must know that among his battleships, except for the Rongbo battleship that was captured later, the battleships obtained in the deserted galaxy were better. Almost just a large toy. At this moment, the battleships here expressed to him what a real group battleship is. Among them, there are more than 101 km class super large warships, 700-800 meter class warships, and more than 1,600 meter class warships. The 500 meter class battleship that Jia Yan regards as the main force is just the weakest soy sauce character in this fleet. Sir, this is part of the combat power of our army. There are more than 10,000 warships in active service in this alliance. In addition, the entire planet's reserves and follow-up warship assembly lines are also on standby. As long as the war starts, the combat power can be increased by countless numbers. The tiger-headed monster was beside Jia Yan and explained with some pride. This is why we can withstand the pressure of several alliances with a population of only 200 million. Awesome, Jia Yan sighed and followed the tiger-headed monster out of the giant steel car. But just when he got off the car, he suddenly felt a huge sense of crisis, which spread throughout his body. Jia Yan, right? Give me a stick. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 652. Huang's ferocity invaded his whole body, and a terrifying threat made Jia Yan's body involuntarily feel an unspeakable sense of fatal danger. Venerable level, the first moment this threat appeared, this thought flashed through Jia Yan's heart calm. After that, his mind was spinning, and his thoughts and actions started at the same time. Boom boom boom. 6 feet kicked hard towards the back at the same time, and then his body suddenly rushed forward. Behind the feet was a huge reaction hole caused by the pedaling, and there was a huge explosion in the entire space. And the black giant thing that fell hit him in one breath. The owner who used this giant thing obviously didn't expect that Jia Yan's speed had reached such a terrifying level. The giant black thing hit him hard. On the ground that had been dented by Jia Yan's kick was once again hit by this giant object, creating an even bigger hole. Bang! The shock wave behind him hit Jia Yan faster. Deep down in his heart, he wanted to follow his instinct and continue to fly forward a little distance, and then follow the inertia to make a spin and attack the attacker behind him. But at this moment, a thought suddenly came to his mind. Isn't this scene the timing of using a move taught to me by Senior Light and Shadow? I didn't respond directly, so I learned it for so long in vain. But it's still too late now. Jia Yan's figure dashing forward suddenly used a strange movement method in mid-air. His brainwave power used a kind of wonderful thrust in mid-air. The amount of thrust used was not large, but it miraculously caused his body to suddenly change direction at this moment, and this change was extremely fast. Boom boom boom. There was a burst of air vibrations in the sky. Sneak attack on me? Even if you are at the venerable level, please hurt me. Jia Yan's faint voice of brainwave power reached the attacker's ears. This monster is more than 150 meters tall, standing proudly between heaven and earth, as majestic as the mountains rising into the sky, exuding a terrifying aura. But at this moment, there was a look of surprise in his eyes. The monster was extremely surprised when he saw that Jia Yan, who was attacked by him, was able to dodge his attack. But what surprised him even more was the speed of the opponent's rotation. This was obviously not an action that ordinary Starry Sky level experts could make. Without special force methods, it is impossible to do this kind of action. Didn't the information about Jia Yan say that he didn't have a master's education and that he mostly relied on instinct in fighting? Then how did he get such advanced fighting skills? This red monster was extremely shocked by Jia Yan's fighting skills, but this shock was only a short moment. When Jia Yan's whirling body suddenly approached him, the monster raised its arms with ferocious intent in its eyes. When a terrifying wave rippled through the sky and the earth. The tiger-headed monster standing next to Jia Yan had not received any news before. When the tall red monster attacked, the monster was also affected. At this moment, the whole body was hit by the concussive attack from the monster. The wave was violently knocked to the side, but his widened eyes were even wider at this moment. He was shaken away by the red monster's attack. Originally, he thought that Jia Yan's strength was comparable to his own. Even if he was strong, it was only limited, but the current situation was obviously not like this. I saw the big mosquito that had dodged the red monster's attack. At this moment, it suddenly made a strange turn back in mid-air. Moreover, this turn back was obviously not very reluctant, but extremely flexible. It was obvious that it's okay even if this action is performed just before the dodge. If that's the case, the attacker might be even more difficult to deal with. How is this possible? Jia Yan's movement skills are actually so powerful. The tiger-headed monster looked at the scene in shock. I saw the big mosquito that turned back to attack, struck away, and stabbed hard with its right foot. The tall red monster raised his left arm with an indifferent expression, and the huge thing he was holding in his hand was currently being held, blocking it between the two. Following a terrifying collision, the two figures intertwined. Are you really Jia Yan? The red monster looked at the big mosquito on the other side with a somewhat moved expression. At this moment, his expression was no longer relaxed at all. A small dot appeared on the huge stick-like weapon he was holding in his hand. The monster's weapon was actually slightly damaged. You are the strongest person in How to Star, right? Master Menbo? But this is how you greet me, it really chills me. Jia Yan looked at the other party indifferently, and at the same time looked at the tiger-headed monster. The tiger-headed monster that was pushed aside by the shock wave caused by the two attacks finally recovered from the shock. He quickly got up from the ground and came between the two. Brother, don't go too far. Mr. Jia Yan is a distinguished guest invited by our Howda Alliance. Please don't make the distinguished guest unhappy, the tiger-headed monster shouted loudly at the red monster. Oh, it turns out he is an honored guest. Haha, I was so closed-minded that I just felt a strange breath and forgot about Lord Jia Yan's arrival. I'm sorry for you, ha ha ha, the tall red monster. Then he laughed heartily, as if he wanted to overshadow the previous scene. Really? It turns out that Mr. Menbo has been practicing to the point of stupidity. I understand, he he he. Jia Yan smiled coldly and sinisterly. The opponent's mind did not look like he was practicing stupidity. The previous attack looked very sharp, but Jia Yan could also feel that the opponent just wanted to give him a blow. With both of them calming down, the tiger-headed monster quickly eliminated the previous unhappiness and led Jia Yan to introduce the ghost-like monster. Haha, Mr. Jia Yan, we can be regarded as strangers without fighting. It seems that our strength is not much different. I am worthy of being a powerful person at the venerable level. My little brother, you are more powerful. As a top star in the sky, only those who can resist my strength. You must know that my strength is not the worst among the venerable level, it is amazing, amazing. After Jia Yan had a few conversations with Menbo, who looked like a ghost, Menbo's attitude was obviously different from before, and he actually started to treat Jia Yan as brother. At the same time, Jia Yan also noticed that Menbo, who looked like a ghost, was looking at the tiger-headed monster and seemed to be asking about Jia Yan's strength. However, Jia Yan was also a little shocked at his own strength at this moment, and it was even less possible for them to know how his strength could be so terrifying. Senior Guangying's teachings are so terrifying. My strength has only reached this level in just a few months. However, this expert and the tiger-headed monster obviously misunderstood, and I only learned a few tricks. If we really start fighting, apart from this turning attack, I only have a few tricks that I can use, and it won't take long for this expert to figure it out. But it doesn't matter. Senior Light and Shadow is in my body. You can learn any moves you want at any time, and my strength will continue to improve. Give me a while, even if I really fight this master head-on, it's not impossible. Thinking of the previous scene, Jia Yan's eyes were full of understanding. Obviously, he still didn't believe in the teachings of Senior Guangying before, but now he has really seen the effect, and he is very interested in the other party's teachings. More interested? Haha, little brother Jia Yan, thank you very much for coming to visit us when we are in such a difficult situation. It seems that our Howda alliance still only has your giant mosquito fleet as a true friend. The two sides were facing the meeting hall of the headquarters of the Howda alliance. Na Menbo changed his mind several times, and now he actually called Jia Yan his younger brother. Haha, you and I used to be neighbors, so it's appropriate for us to visit, Jia Yan responded casually. His so-called neighbors were the giant mosquito fleets that came out of the barren galaxy. It's really so vast. Tower Union is closer. However, Jia Yan himself felt a little disgusted when he said these words. You must know that he had never heard of the so-called Howda alliance before. Also, this guy is even more disgusting than him, and they are actually brothers within a few steps of each other. It's so shameless. Ha ha ha, yes, we are neighbors. Brother Jia Yan is really a cheerful person. We will get closer and closer later, Na Menbo responded with a smile. But that's what he said, but for the tiger-headed monster, Zayashui Yuan showed a little anxiety at this moment. Oh Biki, do you think Jia Yan will agree to our invitation? His fleet doesn't matter, but he is actually a strong man with similar strength to me. I should have known that I should be the one to pick up the ship. You guys, why didn't you know his strength earlier? What a bastard. While walking with Jia Yan, the ghostly monster Menbo made an angry sound to Menbo, who was laughing beside him. Brother, how do I know that Jia Yan's strength is so powerful? The previous information did not say that his strength is so terrifying. But I heard that in the deserted galaxy, this guy seems to have shown that he is as powerful as a great man. There were rumors that he was involved, but I thought it was a rumor and missed it. Now it seems that his strength is so incredible, maybe this rumor has some credibility. Sigh. The tiger-headed monster also sighed. He had a high opinion of Jia Yan's strength, but he still didn't expect that Jia Yan's strength was so incredible that he could compete with the Starry Sky Lord with the top strength of the Starry Sky. This was the highest level in the entire Northern Star territory. Something that few geniuses can accomplish. Bullshit, he is involved with a great existence. Do you know what the so-called great existence is? If you want to be involved with a great existence, even the Losai Empire may not be qualified. It is said that there is a place 3,000 light years away. There is a country of great beings in this place, and including our Northern Star territory, as well as the great empire of Losai, they are all lands under the name of this country, but they just don't care about us. Do you think that great beings can really do this? Do you want to pay attention to our existence? People look at us like clowns.